Hello, everyone, and welcome to BMC Exchange 2021. I'm Ram Chakravarti, the Chief Technology Officer at BMC Software. We have an action-packed agenda for you, starting with the just concluded keynote that I was part of. For those of you that may have missed the keynote, in keeping with the data-driven business theme, I focused on the three areas where we see the evolution of a data strategy playing a critical role. They are, number one, DevOps and its next evolution, DevSecOps. Number two, edge computing and the ability to harness data and analytics at the edge. And finally, data ops, which is the new frontier for value realization in data and analytics. BMC's innovation agenda is bold and ambitious, and powering the data-driven enterprise is the centerpiece of our innovation aspirations. I would love for all of you to check out some of the exciting innovations being showcased at the Innovation Labs Salon at BMC Exchange. However, this is a Q&A, so without further ado, let's get to the questions and answers being moderated by Puneet Supal. Hey Puneet, what are folks asking about the Innovation Labs Salon?
Thank you, Ram. There's a whole bunch of questions coming in, but before that, let me congratulate you, if I may, on an awesome keynote. It was, I think, quite a show and a lot of important messaging from Ayman, from you, from Ali. And here's our very first question. Somebody has been reading our press releases. So here's the question. A couple of the announcements in your press release include products that started in your Innovation Labs. What can we expect to see out of Innovation Labs moving forward?
That's a great starting question, Puneet. Okay, so first off, we announced the Control-M Python client at the keynote. Both Ali and I talked about it. And this is something you can also view at the Innovation Salon. And that is the first incubation from the Innovations Lab that's actually poised for GA. So we are super excited about that, but it is just a small subset, a representative subset, if I may, of the exciting incubations that we have underway. The other one that I talked about was Helix Log Analytics, which has a component called Helix Log Data Enrichment, which is about using enriched logs. That also started in the labs. That's just the start. You can expect to see a number of new products from BMC that have had their genesis in the BMC Innovation Labs for the foreseeable future. And this spans data ops, which is a huge focus area for us, ML ops, edge computing, new architectures, and the management of new architectures such as containers, serverless, and a whole host of others. Observability and AI ops is another theme, and I could keep going on, but let's get to the next question.
Very well. Let's go to a question. Oh, this is interesting. So one of our attendees wants to know, do you have specific areas of focus for the Innovation Labs, some that you would perhaps prioritize over others?
I love that question. Before I get to the second part of the question, let me address the first one. We broadly classify our focus areas in the Innovation Labs into two buckets, core tech and emerging tech. Core tech includes all the incubations we have underway in observability and AI ops, DevSecOps, the new architectures such as containers, serverless, and others that I talked about. Basically, the way to look at core tech is it's a close adjacency to our core portfolio. And then if we look at emerging tech, we have data ops, ML ops, computer vision, Internet of Behaviors, virtual reality, augmented reality, not to mention edge computing, among a whole host of others. And these are basically far adjacencies and new markets. And the second part of your question, a big focus for us and a strategic bet for us from the Innovation Labs perspective and broader BMC standpoint is to empower the data-driven business, and that starts with data ops.
Awesome. Let's go to another one that is coming in from one of our customers. So first of all, I want to thank the gentleman who's asking the question for being a customer and for their commitment to BMC. Thank you so much. Here's the question, Ram. To what extent can customers co-innovate with BMC? Are there any limits?
Okay, that's a great question again. Customer co-innovation is a top priority for BMC, whether it is in the BMC Innovation Labs or in one of our product organizations. Specific to the BMC Innovation Labs, customer co-innovation starts with an exploratory discussion or two with customers where we explore topics of mutual interest that can be classified as far adjacencies to our core portfolio and new markets. These are the areas that I talked about. And if we identify those areas of mutual interest, then the next set of discussions is about identifying specific problems to solve with technology and also honing in on the desired outcomes we want from this co-innovation. We then start small by conducting small experiments jointly that we learn from, and then based on those learnings, we iterate, scale, and then eventually deliver compelling solutions to our customers. And customers are involved in every step of the way here. So with this approach, the advantage for customers is twofold. One, they can explore bleeding edge technology without having to invest in significant spend in said technology. Number two, they have access to and a partnership with the top talent from the innovation labs. And you can hear from some of our top talent in the innovation salon, and they actually are sharing some of the exciting incubations that we have underway in a host of these focus areas. So that's how we focus on customer innovation. It's a huge priority, as I mentioned, and we're going to amp it up significantly in the time ahead so that it's a joint win for both of us, and we are truly working at the intersection of emerging customer needs and technologies. And we will also involve partners in this continuum because it's not just a one-stop shop. We've got to provide an end-to-end solution, and that's where the BMC partner ecosystem also has a valuable role to play.
It's interesting that you would end on that note, that answer, Ram, because one of the questions we have here is from someone who says, we are working on a number of solutions that will require us to take advantage of IoT technologies. How can you help us, and will you help us with others we may have to partner with?
Sure, absolutely. So let's make the distinction here, right? So IoT is a pretty broad term. So we are not going to necessarily go head to head with a GE Predix or Siemens or an industrial IoT company. So the first step would basically be for us to have that conversation around what IoT means for you. And that conversation, our focus is really about what we can do. So what we are doing is taking our portfolio, which focuses on IT data, extending it to do the same kind of management for operational technology or OT. And for that is why we've built this platform called Helix Edge Computing Platform, or Hedge. And that platform basically will be the bridge between our core portfolio and edge assets to extend the use cases to the edge, right? So that's our aspiration. And we do that by having the Innovation Labs folks work with the customers in the same manner as I outlined in terms of joint problem identification, joint outcomes identification, having design sessions, and then small scaled experiments that we can basically have tangible, measurable outcomes delivered really quickly. That would be the pathway.
Okay. Another question from somebody very interested in knowing about what we are doing in the AI space. The question is, are any of your current projects or innovations such that they take advantage of machine learning?
Where do I start? AI is at the core of everything that we do, whether it's in the product organizations that Ali leads or in the innovation labs, right? So it's a centerpiece of our ADE technology teams. So what we do with AI is we infuse it in pretty much everything that we do. But since the question was specific to innovation labs, we have multiple incubations in our data ops and agenda that use a heavy dose of AI. We also have some in the next evolution of what we bring out for DevOps personas, the site and service reliability engineers. And that's around the notion of reliability analytics, where there is a heavy application of machine learning. We've got a whole host of others, including chat ops, knowledge analytics, and virtual assistant knowledge analytics, which again use a heavy infusion of these. I mean, just a sample set again, AI is a centerpiece. Using machine learning methods is a huge part of it. In fact, again, going back to the innovation salon, we will show you what we're doing with a couple of the incubations with even deep learning techniques and GPT-3 and what have you.
Awesome. Okay. The keynote today was mostly about data and how data can make us successful. Would you like to elaborate on where AI ops fits in the picture?
Sure. So I look at it as a two-part story, right? It's observability and AI ops, and they feed off of each other. For many years, it used to be traditional monitoring. The last few years, it's been about observability, which builds on monitoring to provide observable insights. And that is across the entire technology stack. What we have is a unique value proposition for observability, where we use AI to get full observability into the entire technology stack. And that's the first use case for AI ops, where you can do much better than the traditional rules-based monitoring with an infusion of AI to get higher order insights, whether it's root cause analysis, anomaly detection, event correlation, and a whole host of other things. So that in that continuum, AI ops feeds observability. But once you have the observable insights, we don't stop there. It's then about intelligent automation to take a set of actions based on those observable insights. That's where AI ops part 2 comes in, and AI ops is now the recipient of these observable insights to take either automated, semi-automated, or deliberately manual actions based on judicious infusion of the human touch that you still want, so that you have the service owner has overall control of what we are trying to automate with AI ops. And that's the premise behind intelligent automation with AI ops. Hopefully that answers the question.
All right, moving on to a slightly different question. We are in the transportation business. You mentioned in your keynote about how, we can, let me take another quick look here. Yeah, how we can do better maintenance with our fleet. Do you have any active examples you can share right now, or how do we get started if we want to work with you? So it's kind of like a hybrid question here, Ram.
Okay, so we have so many successful case studies across industry sectors in terms of how we power data and analytics use cases. And it starts with the central theme behind our data ops aspirations is around the power of end-to-end orchestration from source to insights using our industry-leading orchestration solution, Control M. On top of that, we have Control M Python client and a whole host of other data ops-centric incubations. So think of that as the technology capability. But now let's get to the question of how we would empower customers. We actually have a really wonderful customer case study, the case of Navistar, which is a heavy-duty on-the-road trucking company, where they've used Control M for a complex data and analytics use cases to orchestrate data from IoT job streams from sensors on the trucks that they have delivered to their customers to other complex data to minimize downtime, to get actionable insights 5x faster, and a whole host of other things. That's just one way of doing it. There are a whole host of others that's specific to the transportation sector. But then there are, again, a whole host of other industry sector use cases where we can really look at the end-to-end flow of a complex pipeline and optimize it in so many ways using orchestration and the whole host of other data ops components. Would love to have a follow-on conversation about where we can take this and go with a co-innovation initiative and see what that gets us to.
Awesome. Here's one more, Ram, which I think you probably have touched upon, but I think it bears a repetition. So here goes. One question, sorry, I take that back. Oh, what happened to my question? It sort of disappeared on me. Give me a second. Oh, there it is. How has the Innovation Lab helped customers create a competitive differentiator for them?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, I think I've kind of answered this, but it's worth reiterating for sure, right? So a lot of customers, so we'll start with ideation. Companies may not necessarily have the resources to do the market research and strategic analysis in terms of what the problem is. So we can help them with ideation and land on a thesis with respect to what problem is important to them and what is the solution scope, and if this is in BMC's wheelhouse from an Innovation Labs emerging tech standpoint, right? So once we get there, then we follow the same tested process. But specific to this question, what happens is working with the innovations labs on co-innovation for specific problems gives customers the degree of luxury of working on bleeding edge technology that we play with in the innovation labs and we deliver scalable solutions from. They don't need to make that investment. They can do these small, relatively low risk, in fact, risk-free experiments with our innovation labs top talent. And based on the success of these experiments, they can make judicious choices in terms of rolling out these leading and bleeding edge technologies if it is the right solution for that particular use case. So that's a pretty compelling advantage, if I may say so myself.
Awesome. Okay, so this is now a question that is based on your keynote, Ram. In the keynote, there was a lot of emphasis on data ops and the data-driven business. Can you share any use case example of how and where data ops is being leveraged by BMC today?
Okay, you know what? I'll actually do one better. Right after this Q&A, I'm presenting on data ops for value realization and data and analytics transformations, where the Navistar case example, among others, as well as how we are using data ops as our next big strategic bet, are all going to be covered and then some. So what I would suggest is the answer and a whole lot of related information to this specific question is right on the heels of this Q&A in the data ops presentation. I would love for you to listen in, chime in, and we can take it from there. So I would love to hear from you after seeing the presentation and maybe even engaging in subsequent discussions.
Thank you so much, Ram. Ram, I think we are getting close to the end of our Q&A period here. Folks, there have been many questions, but we don't want to keep you from getting to the next session that Ram just spoke about. It starts in just under 3 minutes. So this probably gives you time to grab a quick coffee or a sip of water, but do not miss that session that will answer the question. Ram, thank you so much for your time. And folks, before we go, don't forget to keep coming back to the Innovation Salon. There is a whole slew of content here that is going to be very, very interesting to all of you. It shows us where we are taking you, how we are helping you in your journey to becoming an autonomous digital enterprise. There is another live session tomorrow where we are actually going to be talking with a partner, and hopefully that will be very interesting to you as well. So thank you so much. And Ram, once again, thank you for your time and for your insights. Folks, go to the data ops session now. Thank you.
Thank you, Puneet. And keep the questions coming. Keep visiting us. Happy to engage. Thank you, everyone.